Creative homeschooling.
Pawn. The pawn was originally called a padati,
Which was Sanskrit word for foot soldier.
There are 8 pawns for each player and they stand in the front line.
As previously said, pawns are the frontline warriors.
Pawns only take short steps, but the way they move adds structure, strategic depth, and a distinct purpose to a chess game. Pawns usually move one square forward at a time. A pawn is the only piece that can never move backward.
A pawn can only move forward with one exception. It can move diagonally while capturing an opponent's piece.
The pawn captures by moving one square diagonally forward to the left or right. So, this is briefly about the moves of the pawn. Now, let's see it practically in a challenge. Get your 4x4 chessboard ready, which you might already have in your hand. If not, please watch the preparatory video. I have provided the link in the description box. You can also download the free printable 4x4 board from the description box of that video. Okay, now let's take 2 chess pieces. One is black rook and a white pawn. Initially, place the pawn in the box B1. I believe you all remember how to find the address of each box, which we have discussed in our previous video. As you all remember, the address of each box consists of 2 values, the column location and the row location of the box. So, now in this case, the column location is B and the row location is 1. So, the address of the box is B1. Right. You can check out the class 1 video again to get even more familiar about the finding a box address. I have provided the link in the description box. Okay, now place the rook in the box C3. Now let's start the game. As previously stated, the pawn can move only one step forward. So, let's move the pawn from B1 to B2. Correct. The pawn now has 2 possibilities. It can either move forward or diagonally to capture the rook. In this step, I would like to capture the rook. So, I will move diagonally to the box C3. Now that I have captured the rook and there are no other pieces on the board, this challenge is finished. Now, let's do this challenge again together. Let's place the pawn in B1 and rook in C3. Now, you will solve the challenge.
The pawn moves one step forward. A pawn now has two options. It can move forward or diagonally.
Which one will you choose?
I would like to capture the rook. So, diagonally.
Wow, super! You captured the rook and you finished the challenge. Rook. In chess, the rook is a piece that looks like an European castle. Originally, in its original and oldest form of the game in India, the rook symbolized by an elephant. It's one of the fastest and the most powerful piece in the game. Two rooks are considered stronger than a single queen. The rooks are the most simple moving chess pieces on the board. At any moment in the game, it only moves in straight lines in any direction. It can move forward, backward, or sideways to the left and right, as long as nothing is in their way. Rooks have several possibilities. It can make a short move and advance one step, or they can make a single move that takes them all the way to the top of the board. It has a wide range of moments and can travel the entire board. This is briefly about the moves of the rook. Knight. The knight has almost unchanged since Chaturanga, which is usually considered as the very earliest form of chess. Its original Sanskrit name is Aswa or Ashwa, which means horse. The knight is a piece in the game of chess that is traditionally shaped like a horse. Knights represent the cavalry on the chessboard. The knight moves very differently compared to other chess pieces. And its movement is unchanged since the piece was invented. The knight is special for two reasons. It is the only piece that has the ability to hop or leap over another piece. With each movement, it switches from a white square to a black square, or vice versa. That means knight winning on a white square will always end up on a black square. As mentioned just before, the knight moves unconditionally compared to other chess pieces. Whereas other chess pieces move in a straight line, knights move in an L shape. That means they can move two squares in any direction vertically followed by one square horizontally, or two squares in any direction horizontally followed by one square vertically. The knight is the only piece in the game of chess that can jump over other pieces, regardless of whether those pieces are white or black. This is briefly about the moves of the knight. Bishop. In Chaturanga, the bishop was represented as an armed attendant, riding on the back of an elephant. This piece originated in India, and its original name was one of the Sanskrit names for elephant, Hasta or Gaja. It was known by both names. The bishop benefited from the development of chess in the 15th century. Initially, he could only jump 2 fields diagonally. Later, the jump was removed and he could move diagonally as far as he wanted. A bishop can move diagonally in any direction and to any extent permitted by the squares. If an opposing piece blocks the bishop's path, he can capture it and occupy its square. The bishop has a unique characteristic. It always stays on squares of a single color. That is, if a bishop starts the game on a black square, it will only be able to step on black squares for the rest of the game. Similarly, if a bishop starts the game on a white square, he will only be able to step on white squares for the rest of the game. The bishop, like the other pieces, can only capture an opponent's piece by standing on the square on which the piece is standing. This is briefly about the moves of the bishop. In the following videos, we will do some interesting challenges to master the moves. Queen. The queen is the most powerful piece on the chessboard. The combination of rook and bishop moves has made it one of the most iconic pieces in the game of chess. Originally, the queen was referred to as a vizier, minister, or advisor. It was a weak piece that could only move or capture one step diagonally. Later, the game made its way from India to Persia and the Arab lands up through North Africa and finally to southern Spain. During the reign of King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Castile in the 15th century, the queen evolved into the most powerful piece on the board. Let's have a look at the moves of the queen. The queen combines the straight line moves of the rook with the diagonal moves of the bishop. queen can move forward and backward, but it can never jump over any other pieces. The queen, like the other pieces, can only capture an opponent's piece by landing on the square on which the piece is standing. This is briefly about the moves of the queen. King.
The king in Chaturanga, widely regarded as the earliest form of chess, was known as a Raja, which is a Sanskrit word for king. The Persians refer to it as Shah, their word for king. When the Arabs took over chess from the Persians, they kept the name. When Shatranj, the Muslim form of chess, spread to Europe, the king's name was Latinized as Rex, and it was commonly referred to by the native word for king in other European languages. For example, it was a roi in French, a König in German, and a rey in Spanish. The king is easy to recognize. It is the tallest piece in your orbit and mostly has a cross on the top of its crown. The whole game of chess revolves around the king. The king is the most important piece in the game of chess. However, it is also the weakest one. In chess, the king is a slow piece that can only move one step forward, backward, to the sides, or diagonally. Any of the opponent's pieces standing in any square surrounding the king can be captured by the king. This is briefly about the moves of the king. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked the video. Please do like and subscribe. See you in the next video.